Let's watch this Wisconsin rally with Kamala Harris further laying out her plans as president and contrasting herself from Trump even more so as the only sane presidential candidate left in the race.
Just imagine Donald Trump with no guardrails. He who has vowed to be a dictator on day one. He who has called for, quote, the termination of the Constitution of the United States of America. And let us be very clear, someone who suggests we should terminate the Constitution of the United States should never again stand behind the seal of the President of the United States. Never again.
Exactly, and also the fact that he enlisted fake electors in 7 states to subvert the vote of the people in those states so he could remain in power in an attempt to coup our government that we've never seen before, pressured state officials to find him votes that he knew weren't there, pressured Mike Pence to accept his fraudulent electors, and when Mike Pence refused, deciding to side with the Constitution over the Trump cult, he sent an angry mob from his cult to the Capitol after Mike Pence. The only thing that prevented this coup attempt from being successful were the guardrails that will now be absolutely gone if he reaches office again, with over 70 election officials being 2020 election deniers, multiple governors, the majority of Republicans in Congress, and the unchecked power that was granted to him by the Supreme Court. We would be looking at a dictatorship, one that he himself has promised would come on day one.
We also need to lower the cost of living, because while our economy is doing well by many measures, prices for everyday necessities like groceries are still too high. You know it and I know it. So I have a plan to lower costs on everything ranging from healthcare to groceries, including taking on corporate price gouging. And my plan includes giving a tax cut to 100 million Americans, including $6,000, by expanding the child tax credit for the first year of a child's life to help young and new parents buy a car seat, a crib, baby clothes, in that most significant phase of their development. And all of this is to say, I will always put the middle class and working families first. I come from the middle class, and I have never forgotten where I come from.
She wants to further expand on the work that Biden and her did on lowering medicine costs, moving it to be for all Americans and not just for those seniors on Medicare, where out-of-pocket costs can no longer exceed $2,000 in a year. Insulin costs are down to $35 from hundreds before. Over 70% of medicines saw their prices dramatically drop, while also she wants to go further than Biden in incentivizing hospitals to forgive medical debt. We know that as the economy becomes more concentrated, corporations gouge their prices, and this can be what has caused a lot of the field of inflation since the pandemic, with reporting showing corporations passing on as much as 25% more than what their costs rose onto their consumers. So Kamala's plan to tackle that will be a lifesaver for families and actually addresses the issues people are feeling, and it's something that is already utilized on the state level in over 35 states. So it's hardly communism or destined to fail just because it's being tested on a federal level, while she also plans to match with that a massive tax cut for the middle class for families rather than doing so for corporations and the wealthy. She will be raising their taxes to fund this tax cut. This is an actual plan. It's not just concepts, and it's far more wide-ranging than anything that Donald Trump has talked about his entire campaign.
We were on the floor of the United States Senate in the middle of the night when one of those votes was up, when they were trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And we were all standing around after we all voted to protect the Affordable Care Act. And we were all standing around. And then the big wooden doors to the Senate well opened. And in walked the late, great John McCain. Remember that? And he said, "No, you don't." He said, "No, you don't." Remember that? But we were up against those kinds of attacks when he was president last time, and as he said in the debate, he intends to replace it, but has no plan. In fact, he has, quote, concepts of a plan. No actual plan, concepts. So, aside from that being laughable, it's very serious, because he's basically saying he would threaten the health insurance of 45 million people in our country based on a concept.
And not only something that gives health insurance to 45 million Americans, mind you, but protects people with pre-existing conditions from being denied by insurance providers, which might even be a little bit more important than the former part of that, right? It also set the basis for Medicare to be able to negotiate drug prices with Big Pharma and take away from their power of monopoly, right? This keeps people from being priced out of the healthcare market to the same degree, which is something that's crazy is even allowed in the first place. And we now know that Trump went to roll this stuff back just because Obama did it, by the way, and he wants to destroy anything the first black president did. He did so without even having a plan to replace it. And now he vows to do it again. And without Republicans like John McCain residing anymore in the party as they move further and further towards a cult of Trump, I'm not so sure that it would survive another Trump term, and it's something I definitely don't want to roll the dice and hope for. That's your grandparents losing coverage. That's your friends with pre-existing conditions being denied crucial healthcare that could otherwise save their lives. This is the reality we would be looking at under Trump, an economy that favors the wealthy from housing to healthcare. Who even wants that?